Hello, everybody, and welcome to 100 Dates in 100 Days. We have my co host, the sexy Mumba, and then we have our guest. Chanel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, beautiful people. I am Chanel White, and I'm so happy to be joining this podcast because y'all know for my friends that's following, how much I give advice all the time. So this is something I'm looking forward to. So today's training day, but I'm the one and only Chanel White, living in Tampa, but from St. Croix.
So the special thing about this group is we all grew up in the Virgin Islands, right? And I always tell people that growing up in the Virgin Islands and dating is different, right? It's like one day you meet somebody, you know their family all your life. So the next day y'all in a relationship, you married, you had children. You don't even have to be legally married to call somebody your husband. It's just different, right? You move to the States and you get to see a different perspective on dating and what's accepted and what's not accepted. Like I know family members that have a aunt living across the street that they were cousins and brothers and sisters at the same time, and nobody knew that it was something different or wrong, right? So my perspective on relationships have always been different. But I love the both of you because you guys have different perspectives. That's not like the societal norm either. And that's why I think this is a threesome, a really good threesome to have, right?
You can put it that way.
Don't get no ideas, Mumba. Okay, I just said
Nah.
really good.
Today's Sunday. Today's the clear mind day.
Look,
So
he said rest, but he said nothing about. I mean, anyway, let me stop before I get struck by lightning. But today I wanted us to talk a little bit about, and I know everybody's been seeing it in the news, on the blogs, on Facebook. I've heard it on a radio station. So I was like, okay, we have to tap in on this. This whole Marcus Houston situation, right? So he married his wife when she was 19, he was 38. And he said the reason that he did it is because he couldn't date a woman his age because we don't, and I say we because I'm his age, we don't need men. And we come with baggage, we have children, and we have issues. So he needed someone that he could groom. And he actually used the words groom, which I found like took me off a little bit, right? Because nobody can groom me. I don't care if I was 18 or 41, but that's me, right? How do you guys feel about this whole Marcus Houston situation or dating somebody that's younger or older?
Want me to
should
go first, or you want to go first?
I'll let you go first, Chanel. You the special guest. So we let you go first. So
Well, for me, because I am definitely into healing and growing, so my mindset is not easily triggered. So even though kindness, you heard a word like groom, and that probably took you back. Like it could sound like pedophilia, like groom or controlling. Or I didn't get that. What I got was Marcus Houston is 38 years old. He is in a different tax bracket. He's in a different level. Because let's be real and let's be honest. We all don't get the same privilege. I don't care how much you think you are or whatever. The men you're looking at, the woman you're looking at, they're probably looking at their type is something different. But for him being 38 years old, and most women, at least most women that I know, they're not healing and they're not growing and they're traumatized and they're entering relationships, and a lot of men are tired. A lot of men are tired, a lot of women are tired. So to me, his choice is somebody who is less, have less baggage. And I could agree with that because my husband is 20 years older than me. And I had a lot of options when I was younger. And I had experiences, and it took my husband, who is 20 years older than me, for me to be like, you know what? Let me change the narrative and let me look at something different. And I went outside the box. I took a chance because that's exactly what I told him. I said, you know what? You're my type. You're nice and everything. He had all these qualities. But I said, you know what? I got.
You froze up on us, Chanel. Can you
Yeah,
hear
she
us?
froze up. It's a possibility she gonna got mess like a
Okay.
text.
But I took a chance and it worked. But I wanted somebody who was more older, had, just like Marcus Houston. I had something that I wanted, and to me, the men my age was not, what I'm saying is, I don't fall in the category where a lot of women, because we live in a society where a lot of stuff is just, it's like a one size fit all. A woman's supposed to be this, a man's supposed to be that. And I realized with my relationship, I had to create my own reality. My husband is older than me. My husband is religious. I'm not religious. My husband is a stay-at-home person. I am outgoing, but we make it work. So the noise of the world will come whether you're young, older, younger, whatever. But it's the two individuals like, listen, do we want to do this?
Okay.
Because I'm an adult, he's an adult. Remember, my husband 20 years older than me, So his the wall that he know and the wall I know is two different walls if we want to be stuck in that mindset. So I would agree with Marcus Houston because I'm also in a relationship that would go against the grain. Like what?
Okay. How you feel, Mumba?
For me, I think the biggest I think the biggest problem with a lot of people is that they put their mindset into everybody's mindset. So when Marcus Houston said, like, I would date older women because they come with baggage and kids and stuff like that. You can't actually really say that. And if you had like a bad experience, you can't really say that either, because a lot of people have different perspective and you have a lot of single mothers out there that they don't really come with baggages and stuff like that. If you consider kids a baggage, then what type of person are you? What type of human being are you? The kids is innocent human beings. They have nothing to do with dating and their parent and who the parent dating and stuff like that. And when he using the term of like grooming and stuff like that, I think is really disrespectful. And again, this is coming from my perspective, especially coming from a person that was raised by a single mother and a woman who never gave up on her kids and did what she had to do and stuff like that and never being loud. If you look at it, I would say the more percentage of when it comes to single parents, mostly the mother is the one that usually takes the role and the sacrifice and do what they gotta do for the kids and stuff like that. There's a lot of fathers that do it too, but like I said, if you look at the percentages, I would think the mother is kind of higher. So when you use terms like that and say stuff like that, it's just disrespectful. As a whole. You know, he's a celebrity. He got money, so he could do what he want to do and say what he want to say and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you know, you gotta respect each other and however you feel. I just feel like stuff like that. You just gotta keep it to yourself because you're gonna motivate some people to maybe do the same thing you do, and it's just gonna hurt people in the end.
I think words are important, right? Words are extremely important. I think I understand what Marcus Houston was trying to say, right? Because I could put myself in his shoes. I think that what he was, but I think a lot of times when we're trying to defend ourselves or defend our position, we get reactive and we use words that are triggering, right? Like grooming or baggage, because everybody has baggage. Everybody has something that they came from. We weren't all born in a box, lived in a box until we got married. Like we went through things, we've experienced things. But when you use certain words and you use it in a derogatory sense, right? Because he didn't say, oh, we could work through our baggage. His 17-year-old girlfriend at the time, she had baggage. She didn't come into the world without anything, right? So he was willing to unpack those bags with her, but when he used the words, and again, it's triggering for me, right? Because grooming for me, Chanel, you're right. Grooming for me sounded like he was trying to mold her into what he wanted her to be. But you being in a relationship where your husband is your senior and you still manage to have your own personality and him not changing it, that shows that like grooming doesn't necessarily mean molding, right? So instantly I heard you saying that and it started to change my mind because I was like, okay, she still has her own personality. He still has his own personality. But I think words are so important when you use them. You have to He should have had somebody write his speech for him or write what it is he wanted to say instead of trying to defend himself. If he felt like he did the right thing, honestly, me, when I feel like I do the right thing, I'm not defending myself to anybody. I'm not going to be on blog after blog, interview after interview. I married her when she was at the age of consent. We have our family. We've been married for 5 years. What do y'all want? I think that would have been my response, but I'm just an asshole, right? That's me. Like, y'all leave me alone. I'm not defending myself because I did the right thing. But I watched another podcast in the middle of me looking at Marcus Houston stuff. I saw a podcast, Hollywood Insider, with my favorite person, Jason Lee. He's not my favorite person. I'm just saying that. Um, he was interviewing NLE Chopper, who is a rapper out of Memphis. I think he's like 21, 22, somewhere around that. And he said he prefers to date older women because, and he feels like most men want to date older women. Most people his age want to date older women because they already know what they want and they already have their life together. So he's in the reverse, right? He says older women don't have baggage. They already know what they want. How do y'all feel about that? I just threw y'all for a loop.
No, I mean, I'm ready, but we have our special guests.
I'm
You know,
into,
ladies first. So
I'm into individuality at the end of the day because you see, with me, if something don't apply, I did like fly. That's just me, period. Whether you're an entertainer, because let's be real, an entertainer is people look up to these entertainers like there are leaders in society and they're entertainers, they're selling illusions, but they're also human beings. And I'm all about, listen, people are individuals. You like it. I just don't get caught up in all of that. So I probably, like, because I have seen an NLE Chopper interview because I like to watch interview because I like to tap into people's mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen his interview and he is way behind his time, but also he's a human being. I've seen the interview with the young lady that signed up, agreed to, but of course she got in her feelings. She wasn't emotionally ready and she had a breakdown, right? But so for me, it's like, listen, we have to really start healing because the thing is, when somebody says something, because I have conversations with people that didn't get triggered, and it's like, but if it don't apply to you, why that bothering you?
Exactly.
So the Marcus Houston thing, just piggybacking on what Mumba said about single mother, whatever. Everybody do not want the same thing. He should have that right. If you don't want a single mother, that's his right. It might sound distasteful and whatever, but I wouldn't want to be nobody's stepmother. That is my right. My husband have children my age. I am not their stepmother. That's they have a mother and they have a father. They don't took care for me and it's okay. I don't even take that personal. That's how your father. I ain't signed up to be nobody's stepmother. Plus I am my age. You know what I'm saying? Somebody else would be, oh my God, why would you talk like that? That's reality and I keep it real. So for me it's like listening to Marcus Houston, that's real shit. That's how he feel. And whoever it don't fit or whoever feel a little sensitive or he should have said better, won't you run the truth? Cause he's a celebrity, he's an entertainer, he's selling illusion. Who knows what's going on behind closed doors? So I'm sorry, I'll just be all over the place. So having that conversation with me is really hard because I be all over and I'm passionate. But
No, but
you
I
good,
like
you
how
good.
you say it because what happened is once he announced the fact that because he had a whole child abuse scandal 20 years ago, how they said that's the reason that his boy group broke up. And it's unfortunate that the minute he announced who he's in love with, the first thing they started building back up is, well, it must have been because he was molested. So now he likes young people. It couldn't just be that he found somebody that he fell in love with. And that's why I wanted to talk about him because remember last week we talked about childhood traumas and how they affect our relationships, and that was one of the things that immediately they jumped on, like, yeah, you remember he used to get molested, so now he likes young girls, and they just couldn't let it be that this is the person that he fell in love with. and he decided to start a life with her. And like I said before, I am an advocate for whoever you fall in love with, because it's not my life. It's not going to affect me. The only thing that I said, again, words are important. So the way you use them, especially with him having the platform that he has, right? Because he is a celebrity, it's important to like watch the words that you use and how you may express certain things, because you don't want, you don't know if somebody's at the edge of a cliff, right? Somebody might be a single mother who already is feeling overwhelmed, and now Marcus Houston says, I don't want a woman with baggage, and that's that one thing that sent them completely over to the other side. Now it's not his responsibility. I always say I'm responsible for what I say and not for what you heard, right? Because I can't take on the responsibility of what somebody may do after. And Mumba, you know, I'm big about saying this is my experience. I don't have no letters behind my name. So like don't take anything that I say seriously. And I think that that's what makes his words have more weight than what mine may have. You know what I mean? But Mumba, you were gonna say something. I saw your face. So go ahead.
No, I mean, so both of you, I agree with both of you. First of all, and Chanel use a word that I always use is illusions, because I said 60 to 75% of the people in this world is living in an illusion, and lost they lost touch of reality. And with with the Marcus user situation, like like you guys mentioned, like he has a right to, make his decision, whatever he wants to do. But I just feel like it's very important, and it goes back to what Candice was saying. I think using the word baggage is not the right words to be using, especially when you're a celebrity, because some women might care or some women might not care, but I just feel like where if a woman have kids, you can't use the term baggage. It's just disrespectful to the kids, or whatever the case may be. And maybe he wasn't referring to kids. I don't know. I can't really tell. But he has a right to do whatever he wants to do and stuff like that. But I just feel like when you explain yourself, I think he should be a little bit more better with it. Because you're a celebrity and a lot of eyes is on you and stuff like that. Just be like, I'm not into being a stepdad. I'm not into dating women with kids, because baby daddies and stuff that I get jealous next to they're stalking me, and they look. There's so many stuff that could happen. Dating women and vice versa. Man dating woman with kids, or a woman dating man with kids. So it's vice versa. I just feel like he should have do a better job of explaining himself. But he have 100% right of doing whatever he wants to do. And then in other words, like grooming and stuff like that, I just feel like he just used the wrong words, and maybe he was just caught off guard. And maybe when he looked back, and he might be saying like, man, you know what? I came off wrong. I came off too harsh. Maybe I should have did this better. So I don't want to be too harsh on him. It's just that sometimes they just got to do a better job of using the different words and stuff like that. You know?
I'm all for the truth though. I want the truth. Even if the truth sounds dirty or disrespectful, like I want the truth in any situation. So
Yeah, but
I have 4 children and 2 grandchildren, and I don't care. Everybody could talk about my baggage if they feel like it. But I feel like as long as women or men are carrying their own shit, then you can't consider something baggage if you don't have to carry it for me. Right? I feel like it becomes baggage when I take it and I hand it to you and I tell you my 4 children now is your responsibility. And I don't feel like most women hand out, well, let me not say that, because there's a lot of women who will, but I'm not just going to hand over my children and say, here, it's your responsibility now. But in that same retrospect, if we in a relationship and we decide to get married and it's a partnership and my children are still in the house, you're going to have some kind of say over what happens in a house. Do I want you putting your hands on my children? No, I don't put my hands on my children. So I don't feel like nobody else gonna put their hands on my children. So I told you this last week. I don't want to date anybody that have children under the age of 14. Because I'm like you, Chanel. I don't want to be nobody's stepmother. I don't want to do it. I want to be like, I want to be the cool friend that your daddy talking to, but like I don't want to be nobody's stepmother. I don't want to raise no children again. I'm almost done. Like I'm not starting over. I'm not having any children for anybody. That ship has sailed. I don't, the little children that I have in my house now is my grandchildren. So that's it. Like, I want us to come and go. But I said all of this to say my personal experience, right? So when I was younger, anybody 10 years and plus wanted to date me. But now that I am aged to the right, I'm at the right age. Now I have a whole bunch of younger men trying to date me, right? And they're like my daughter's age. So to me, it's like, so and that's why I wanted us to talk about this week, because I feel like something in the aura is shifting, right? Everybody wanted me when I was younger. It seemed like, and that's why grooming or molding is something that triggers for me, because I do feel like to some degree, right, when a man is way older than you, and it may not be all of them, because I don't think any situation is any and all and everyone, right? But I do feel like a lot of people feel like if I catch them while they're young, I could train them the way they're supposed to be. So how do y'all feel about that? I think we're getting a question on the other end, but I'm gonna let y'all answer that.
I see Chanel thinking. So
Well, I wanted to say something earlier, and that was about the molestation thing. You know, because I'm into healing, right? I was molested at 6 years old, and before I was into healing, I saw where my baggage showed up in relationships. It took me a long time to actually like could talk, could have conversation about molestation or hearing something or trigger words to don't trigger me. So that was just something I want to add in, because I know like a lot of people are triggered because they're not really understanding. Like, listen, you got to heal. Like, healing is your responsibility. Being happy is your responsibility. When you enter in a relationship, you need to enter happy, and that person needs to enter happy, and both are gonna make magic. This is not I looking at you to fix me. But that's just something I want to add in there, because I could hear things today and it doesn't trigger me and doesn't bother me. And I was molested. I was a baby when I got molested. So I could be traumatized too and be a victim, but I choose to be a conqueror and flip the story, like flipping the switch. But I didn't want to take up too much time, but I just want to add that in, because I was just so passionate about just throwing that in, because I know a lot of women, I know a lot of stories, and a lot of women have been raped, molested, all sorts of things, and they are walking around dating people. That's their baggage, because their partner who they're with, they're not telling them about their baggage, but it shows up. It really does. I don't care how much you suppress it. It really shows up in the relationship. So let me pass that one.
But
But
no, before we leave that subject, why do you think most women don't talk to their partners about something that happened to them? Do you feel like they blame themselves, or they don't want to look weak? Because I feel like
both,
that's a real topic. Yeah.
both, because and these is people. Everybody have different experiences. For me, I was 6 years old, and I was touched. I was touched. I had a penis in my hand at 6 years old from the babysitter boyfriend. That is trauma for a little child. That's, you know, my innocence was robbed. So imagine carrying this, becoming a teenager, going through life and thinking it was your fault or just the shame because nobody took me for counseling. These ain't conversations that back then nobody sit me down and had a conversation. So a lot of stuff you just sweep under the rug and you just carry on. So a lot of women who have experienced rape. Okay, I've heard so many stories from family members. So you know how traumatizing that is. So they feel shame because now when they tell somebody, they tell them the lie. They make them feel bad about themselves. The family member who raped them still coming around the family functions. So this is a mental abuse. So they're already looking at men, because I used to look at men like, for my father not being in my life, it's like, he didn't love me, he wasn't there. Then I get molested. So in my growing up, I'm falling in love, but I am not giving my whole self because I still have that trauma. I still stuck in the past experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it took healing. This is why they be trying to tell people, listen, you got to heal. You got to sit down and face the story because that's your story. But that's just a chapter in your story. You don't have to be loyal to the story because everybody's not the same. Open and free yourself so that way you could, you know what I'm saying? New love, new stories could enter. But you, a lot of women be blacking, blacking they be blocking their blessings because they're stuck. Because that little girl never been healed. And that is that little girl, you listen, this thing's so deep. Unless you've been victimized, traumatized, your innocence been robbed, it's hard to have that conversation. But a lot of women, that's why when they hear stories, sometimes everything they trigger them.
Yep.
But they don't understand. Like, listen, you responsible for your life too. Like you gotta deal with this. You gotta face the shame. You gotta forgive yourself because it ain't my fault I get molested. I was 6. So I had to look at myself and like, Chanel, it was not your fault. You know?
you know, you know, and that's a kind of so we was on last week. That's something I said. But like when you dated someone, conversations is the most important thing. And I mentioned like, hey, you want to ask every question under the book, or one of the questions like, hey, have you ever been raped and stuff like that. Because it's like what Chanel just said is like a lot of women have experienced that and they suppress it, and they carry that out for the rest of their life, and sometimes they're not able to express it. And I feel like if you really into someone, having conversation and just having deep conversation, and it's not even self trying to get with the person, it's actually trying to get to know the person, give them that comfortability and that confidence to be willing to see you from a different perspective, knowing that what, I can really talk to this person, or really let my guard down, or really express how I feel. Because sometimes when you suppress feelings and bad experiences and stuff like that, sometimes it's just having someone to talk to and believing in that person, knowing that that person is there for you to express yourself and heal without any type of judgment and stuff like that. And that's very important. And Chanel said something interesting that I think kind of Smith, you touched on the first time, was that in order for you to be happy, you gotta be happy. In order for you to make somebody happy, you gotta be happy. Like you gotta be happy. And in order for you to be happy, is having conversations, is just facing the truth, look at yourself in your mirror, diving deep in your soul, and be willing to express yourself with someone that you feel like you could express yourself with. And that's where you can actually build as a person and as a couple. So that's why I said like conversations is like the most important thing out of everything in the world. Is just having conversations, honest, deep conversations.
Somebody on the other page said that Chanel, they were so sorry to hear your pain. It sounds like you're a very strong person and your voice needs to be heard, that you need to start your own podcast. She is starting her own podcast. Um, we got her. We got her. She gonna come out.
Thank
Somebody
you.
else said Caribbean people are told by family members not to speak about things in this sense because they feel like it's a sense of pride. So we
Mm.
sweep it under the rug and it ends up creating generations of women who need to speak out about these things. And so that's what I was going to tap on. So I'm glad they said something because growing up in the Caribbean, I feel like that's one of the biggest things because you can't run, right? It's an island where you're bound to see this person again one way or another, whether it's at a family barbecue, at the beach, at the ballpark, like everybody tends to hang out at the same place. So Chanel, I feel you. I was molested up until I was about 9. I don't remember when it started. I don't remember how old I was when it started, but I know it stopped when I was 9. That was the first time he had ever penetrated. And once he penetrated me, he didn't want nothing to do with me anymore. But he was our babysitter, right? He was somebody who came to our house every single day, and he continued to babysit for my family until the day he died. So I have a little sister who, like, once he stopped penetrating me, she became my responsibility, right? I felt like I needed to watch over her, to make sure that nothing ever happened to her. So I feel like I had to grow up a whole lot faster than I probably should have, because I became her guardian, right? Because I didn't know how to explain or put into words what was happening to me or what had happened to me. I couldn't prove it. um and I don't know why I felt like I needed to. I don't know why I felt like I couldn't just go to somebody and say this was happening, but I felt like I needed to prove it, because I had already seen too many other family members go through. You have that one uncle that everybody says stay away from him. Nobody knows why as a child they saying stay away from that one uncle, but later on in life you start to hear the stories. So you just learn that when before you accuse anybody of anything, even at such a young age, you take on that responsibility, right? And then in high school, I got raped.
Mhm.
um so that was more of a reality check for me. So what happened is I became in control of me, right? Which may have made me seem like an asshole to most people, or I don't know, maybe a slut to some. Everybody decided to put me in their own box. But I never told anybody what happened. I never explained to anybody what happened. I think the first person I ever told in my life was my ex-husband before. Like we said, married, we sat down and it was time for me to tell him about every single piece of trauma that I had ever been through, because I wanted him to know before we got married that this is who you marrying. So can you deal with it? And that was the first time I had ever said it out loud to anybody. And his reaction made me realize that, like, it wasn't my fault. None of this was my fault. Everything that I had been carrying all my life, tucking it away or keeping it underneath my dress, it wasn't for me to carry. That I needed to share it with people. So I began mentoring little girls and going to women's groups and going to juvenile centers, and not realizing that 8 out of 10 girls have been molested in some shape, way, or form. But what was even more surprising to me is 9 out of 10 boys are molested. And but they don't recognize it as molestation, right? They recognize it as having an older girlfriend, or having an older girl that's interested in them, or having a grown woman who wants to teach them something. So I felt like their trauma was even deeper, because they haven't even recognized what happened to them yet. So first they're going to have to recognize that they were actually being molested, and then they're going to have to deal with the trauma from it, right? So there's a group in St. Louis called Boys to Mentors, and they meet with little boys in a juvenile center, and they teach them like the difference of being abused, and teach them life skills. So I decided I wanted to do the same thing. I started taking in little girls and having them come live with me, because originally I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have a group home, so I used to be like, "You in a bad situation? Come, you could come live in my house, and my daughter will show you the way." But what I didn't recognize too, a lot of times we focus so much on other people's kids that my daughter had started getting jealous at one point. She was like, "You paying attention to all these little girls that had something happen to them, so I need something to happen to me in order for you to pay attention to me." So you have to, it's finding the balance of like taking care of your home, your sanity, and still being able to help other people, right? Share your insight. It's not a secret. You didn't do it to yourself. You don't have to hold it in. It's not for you to carry. It's that, and it's not. And I transitioned my anger from when I realized that it wasn't my fault. I started being mad at all the adults around me, right? That was my initial thing. Like, how come y'all weren't paying attention? How come y'all didn't notice? Where was everybody at? And then once you do more healing, you realize it wasn't their fault either, right? The only person to blame is the person who did it. And I was fresh out the military, right? I had got my military training. I had knew how to use every single weapon. So the first thing I went to do is look for the person who did it to me. And I was ready to go to jail for the rest of my life, right? Put 2 shots to him and go to jail for the rest of my life. And I got home and he had died. So for me, I couldn't even, I felt like for a long time, I wasn't ever going to be able to heal, because I never got the closure that I needed by being able to confront the person that hurt me. So, but like you said, Chanel, healing is your responsibility. It doesn't belong to anybody else. It's not on anybody else. Um, you have to find whatever way that to help you, right? So I've been writing a book. Child, this book has been taking me through some hills and valleys, but I'm writing it. Now, do I know whether I'm going to publish it or not? I don't know because I'm telling too many of other people's dirty secrets in them. But I knew that it was important for me to write it so I could begin my healing journey. Like that's what was going to help me. So, um, I just went on a whole other tangent, right? I wasn't supposed to go there.
No,
See.
can I? So first of all, apologize. First of all, you know, it's shocking. Honestly, like it's really shocking. It hurts my heart to hear both of you guys' experiences. Like honestly, like it really baffles me because it's like I'm 42 years old, and I watch the news and stuff like you see people rape kids and murder all that crazy stuff. And I always wonder like how people could do that to like innocent kids and stuff like that. But like to hear you guys experience firsthand, we from the same island, the same country, etc. Is really sad, and my heart definitely goes up to you guys, especially what you guys had to like live through, your whole entire life until you guys found that comfort and healing and stuff that you guys have spoken. And it's crazy that so many people will do that to kids. It's shocking to me. Like I'm like right now I'm in shock. I just can't believe it. I really can't believe it. It's crazy to me. It's crazy.
I don't know. I can't speak for Chanel, but I can speak for myself. I could say I'm stronger because of it, right? And I feel like a lot of people who deal with it, they have two different reactions. They either shut down entirely or they open themselves up to the world, right? And they become, they say hurt people, but I also feel like hurt people care about people more than anything else, right? Because once you felt extreme pain, you don't want the people around you, even if it's not in your immediate circle, you don't ever want them to feel any pain. I think we spend the rest of our lives trying to protect people and share our experiences to keep people from being in certain situations. Because, even with the dating process, I always talk about safety mechanisms, right? Not making sure how your door is locked, making sure that you call people. All of these things came from somewhere, right? It became because I had an experience that I don't ever want anybody else to have to deal with. So I think it makes us stronger in a sense. I think a lot of people misconstrue our strength for dominance, or we're trying to be men, or we're trying to be too strong, or we're trying to be too independent. And but they don't really peel back that onion and learn all the other layers. So I'm happy Chanel was able to find somebody who was able to help her relax and be herself. You found your partner, you found your forever partner that's able to let you be you, right? Because that's hard to do after you've had trauma.
I want to definitely say, Candice, thank you for sharing your story, because I would have never even think, just by assuming that you went through something so horrific and continuously, you know what I'm saying? So I want to really thank you, because sharing stories like this, especially, online, it takes a lot of courage. People don't understand. We to be brave sometimes when we ain't even brave in that moment. But we know that there's somebody gonna be watching that gonna need the message. So thank you so much, Candice, for sharing your story on the spot just like that. Because in my mind, when I was, speaking about the Marcus Houston, whatever, I wasn't even sensitive that you could have been one of those women too. So I want to apologize, because sometimes I just get so passionate, but I'm so thankful and grateful for your service, and also for sharing your story, because there's a lot of women, I think they're the only ones, and it takes our story to like, listen, we can, Karaz, you
That's
know.
it.
So I'm so grateful and thankful, and I could see where, because I saw your last live, and you said you were married twice and you never lived with your husbands. I could relate to that because I've been in relationships and never lived with anybody. My husband is the first one, so now I can see where trauma, you know, people that went through things, they have their own understanding and it worked for them because your marriages work. My relationship at work at the time too. And it wasn't weird for me. Even raising my son, I didn't need no stepfather for Jaja. Jaja had a father. So I had relationships, but I was so protective over Jaja that I didn't even allow, relationship that I've been in, because I'm traumatized. I was a traumatized person. This is why, like when Mumba said, like you have to have this conversation, you have to have a welcoming energy for somebody that's traumatized and victimized and whatever to open up.
Hmm.
Because we looking at you like you ain't gonna stick around anyway, or you might just hurt me the same. I tell you my story and you still hurt me. So there's so many things, and we carry these things. Sometimes we don't want to let them go. We walk around carrying these baggage. They're heavy. So thank you, Candice. Thank you so
No
so much.
problem. Look, these things they're all a part of our lives. Whether they molded us to become who we are, regardless of whether we recognize it or not, right? So a long time ago, I used to look at it like sex was all men wanted, right? Because that's all they've been taken from me since I was a little girl. So I took control of that. I was gonna have sex with you when I wanted to, how I wanted to. You were just gonna lay down and take it however I gave it to you. That was the control that I decided that I was going to have. But I didn't emotionally connect to anybody, right? Emotions wasn't involved because sex and emotion to me, and to this day, sex and emotion have nothing to do with each other in my mind, right? When I emotionally connect to you, it's going to be something different. And I know that that's still something that's trauma bonded and it still shows up, right? Because if I still feel like sex is just like riding a bike, there's probably somebody I need to talk to about that. I already know. But the first step is at least knowing that it's an issue and then deciding what to do with it next, right? So if you're going to show up and always hurt people because you were hurt, or always disconnect from people because you feel disconnected to the world, then you're going to have to deal with that. It's going to show up somewhere, whether it shows up in the way we raised our children. Um, my son told me something the other day that hurt me to the core, right? But he was telling the truth. He said that I never show emotion. He said the first time he had ever seen me show, he said, lower my veil to show my emotion is the day I got the phone call about my brother dying. He said, but I quickly raised the veil back up and started planning. Okay, y'all need to get tickets. You need to go here. You need to stay with this person. I'm going to come back and get you. I started planning funerals. He said, we saw your emotion for like 2 seconds. We didn't, that was the first time. So I asked him, I said, does that hurt you that I never showed emotions when y'all were growing up? He said, no, because you always got things done. He said, but you showed us that day that you are a human being. From that, and he's 16 years, he's 18 now. But my brother just died 5 years ago, right? So up until my son was 13 years old, he didn't believe that I was a human being because I didn't show any emotion. He was telling the truth. It was his truth. I couldn't be upset with him about it, right? But it showed me how much trauma affected me, even raising my children, because I refused to let them see any emotion, whether it was sad, happiness, anger. They didn't see any of it. Whatever I had to go through, I went through in my shower. I took my shower. Whatever emotion I had to go through, I went through it there. And when I stepped out, I was back to being mommy. And but that's not good for children either, right? They should see emotion. They should know that we have emotion. They should feel. They don't have to go through everything that we went through. They don't have to hear about the trauma. But it's good for us to be able to disconnect from our trauma or heal ourselves. So I always say, like, you should heal yourself before you step into any relationship, or you should heal yourself before you decide to have children, bring them into the world, right? Because they need to see you. Just like if you want to walk into a relationship happy, you have to walk into parenthood happy, right? So I don't think I ever got to enjoy parenthood the way I probably should have. But I get to enjoy being a grandmother because at this point, I'm healed. So I get to see raising children from a different perspective. And I think that's important. Somebody said we need to speak out on more of these things more often. We will. We definitely will.
You know, it's it's funny you guys mentioned that because a few years ago I had a conversation with my son and it was the same thing, showing emotions and stuff like that. Like my mother never used to show emotions, no emotions whatsoever. And I saw how it affected my son, but he's not the type of person to speak up like that. But it took me asking him questions and stuff like that. And when he told me the truth and stuff like that, like it hit me like bricks, And now like if I make a mistake or whatever, like I'll cry in front of my son and stuff like that. But when I cry in front of him, I explain to him like, hey, it's okay to cry, because crying is actually healing. There's a reason why human beings cry. Human beings cry because it's actually healing the body. You're healing your mind, you're healing your soul and stuff like that. And I was mentioned to him it's okay to show emotions and stuff like that. That's just part of living. You know, I'm gonna tell you what, you guys really, really caught me off guard today with everything you guys talk
Oh
about.
Lord, we
You,
get to
you know,
hush Mumba?
no, because the reason why I say that is because that I'm the type of human being I am is because of the situations that you guys go through. That's why like I have so much utmost respect for women and not just women for anybody as well. That's why like for me it's just like I'm beating a dead horse, but that's why I say it's like it's just having conversations because when like we having a conversation among each other and I learned so much about you guys just having a conversation. So like my respect level and appreciation for both of you just went to another level. Like just because of you guys was able to share your feelings and your trauma, not just to me, but just to the whole to the public. And like I admire that with you guys. And what you guys do, and like when people see this episode, like you guys gonna touch a lot of people's hearts, a lot of people's soul, especially a lot of females and also males too, who like you guys mentioned, like you got boys that got molested too. You guys gonna really like open up their heart and their mind to really speak out and maybe have conversation with their kids or their loved ones and stuff like that. So you, due to your trauma and bad experiences in life, you guys actually did something great and positive today. So that's why it's caught me off guard because I would have never expected that from both of you because I never had that thought in me raping a female or molesting and stuff like that because like I'm so against those type of stuff just by reading the news and seeing kids go through that. So like to hear that firsthand from both of you was like it's just shocking. So it's really like has humbled me and really made me admire you guys even more. So I just want to just want to let you guys know like I appreciate what you guys have done today for sure. So for real.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I have a lot of anger too because I definitely want to know who did that so I could take care of them. That's just how I am. But for real. I
My
know Tanis, you
manga, believe
mentioned
me, I
he
would have done
passed
it
away.
myself.
Yeah,
I would have done it myself. But I think what we have to recognize is that people who molest people, it's a disease, right? And I'm not making excuses for them at all, but it is a disease. And we have to treat it like every other disease. Treat it like cancer, treat it like diabetes. Like get them the help that they need and stop pushing it to the side. Like everybody needs to stop saying, just don't get that close to your uncle such and such. We actually need to take uncle such and such and hold them accountable for
accountability.
what they're doing, right? We don't need to wait until they actually hurt somebody, like really hurt somebody. And I think that's what happens, even like in our infamous R. Kelly situation, right? I think people wait until it's too late and you've hurt so many people. But the person who's been doing it all this time, they don't even recognize that what they're doing is an issue or a problem because they've been doing it for so long, right? They started at a young age doing things that was inappropriate And at first, we might have told them, like, hey, just don't do that. Hey, just don't do that. And then eventually it spirals out of control and nobody knows what to do with it. And nobody knows whether to turn that person in because nobody wants to turn in their family member, right? We don't want to become the enemy of the family. But let me tell you something. If you're a family member of mine and you're doing something inappropriate, understand something. I will turn you in. I don't care because the effect that you have on a child
Mm-hmm.
after that, there's no life sentence in prison that could make a child feel better. They end up a prisoner in their own mind for the rest of their lives. You can't ever take that back. So, family member or not, let me find out. Let me have an uncle such and such that's doing something in my family right now. Nobody better don't tell me because you're going down. I'm not even going to pretend, and I'm not even going to. It could be my son, okay? You doing something that's inappropriate, you're going down because it's a disease and they need to be cured for it. There's too many different medications out here now. Scientists have found too many different things, too many different shots that you could give pedophiles, too many different therapies to unwrap. Because some people, yes, some cases, I don't, and I hate when people say this. I hate when people say you become gay after you've been molested or you become a molester after you've been molested. And I can only say that because I've been molested and I've never been turned on by a child in my life.
Exactly.
I don't think that you become something based off of something that was done to you. I believe that that's who you are and you have to own it and stop looking for excuses and go get the help that you need. Right? So, but back to what we originally were talking about because I know we went completely off here. So,
Wait, real quick. I just wanted to say something real quick, and it's
okay.
very important. If like if others know, like you said, like if okay, say like a family member know uncle is that way, that person is as guilty as the uncle. At the end of the
I
day,
feel that way also. I
at the end
feel
of the
that
Yes.
way
day, yeah.
also.
At the end of the day, like if anybody knows you support what they do because you got it, like you mentioned, accountability. You can't. It's no way possible in your heart if you've never done that before in your life or you don't think like that and you know somebody do that and you don't say anything, that's a problem. Honestly. If you done the same thing that person do, then like you mentioned, it's a disease. Okay, so I can understand because it's a disease and I could see that you only see it from that perspective. But if you against that and you don't say anything, come on, man, that's bad. That's bad.
But
So
you think about it, majority of the time they know because it was done to them, right? But because they're not willing to heal or they're not ready to admit what happened to them, they're holding the predator's secret, right? Because in order to tell on him, you have to tell what happened to you. And a lot of people aren't ready for that.
no,
So
I
I
agree with
always
that
say
too.
like you can't step out until you're ready, right? I
Yeah,
get it. You can't tell your truth. It's your truth. You tell it when you're ready.
yeah,
But you
that's true
also
too.
can't let somebody be free among that's like setting a lion in the middle of a den of hyenas and saying he's not going to try to eat one. He's going to try to attack one of them at some point. And
Yeah,
like I said, I tried to protect my little sister, right? I felt like that was my responsibility. But I feel like now looking back, my bigger responsibility was to tell an adult, to tell somebody else so that they could have been the guardian of that. I was a child trying to do what I felt like the adults should have been doing, but it wasn't my responsibility.
yeah. Yeah. As a kid, is you can't really as a kid. It's more my comment is more of an adult who have never done anything like what they know the other person is doing.
Yeah.
That's where it is. But if you are victim as well, then it goes back because I can't is wrong for anybody to tell you guys what you should have done or what you shouldn't have done. It's hard. You can't if you haven't been through what you guys been through. You can't make no comments. So I can't. That's why it's like you gotta sit down and listen and be quiet and listen to like what your guys' experiences, etc. and stuff like that. It's just hard. That's tough.
I remember when I was 6 years old when it happened. We were living in St. Thomas. It was the babysitter boyfriend, right? And I waited until I was 9 years old. I guess in my little mind, I waited until we went far away because we went to New Jersey to live. So in my mind, I figured it was far enough. And I remember telling my mom, and then my mom told my grandmother, and then we went the summer to St. Croix, and then my grandmother like had me in a vehicle, like just us, and I telling her the story, and then she took me from my mom. But it was like no counseling or anything, but my grandmother protected me to the extreme. But when I was like 20 something, like in my early 20s, me and my mom went to like St. Thomas Carnival, and we saw the lady who was the babysitter. And I remember telling her like what her boyfriend did to me. And she had no emotions. Like, as an adult now, you know more than when you were 6. And I was
Yeah,
sharing the experience with her, and all she could have tell me was, well, he get deported back to St. Kitts. It was no type of, you know,
Because she knew
emotion
who he was. She knew
or
who he was.
anything, and it's like adults is, I could have gone many different ways with my trauma. I could have been very angry. I was angry, but eventually I had to let it go because I realized, it's not benefiting me. I had to use it to my benefit where it's like I gotta flip the story. Now I could be relatable to other people that been in situations because I conquered. I conquered in the mind.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm saying the story don't happen. I am not a victim to molestation. I had an experience in my lifetime. That's why I had to tell myself. So I tell myself certain things because if I allow the victimhood to take over, I'll be traumatized for the rest of my life.
that's true.
Yeah.
You know. But this was good. Listen, we didn't expect all of this, but this is how
But
the
we got a
universe
whole
work. God
therapy
work.
session.
Yes. And we all have baggage, like Mumba said, and Candace said, we all coming with something. But it's just communication. Be real. I don't like them little, don't panda Chanel. Tell me what it is. I like that. You know what I'm saying? If it's A is A. You know what I'm saying? This, I understand sometimes you need to get a little sugar coated, but I rather the real Candice. But that's just me. I rather when Candice say
That's it.
me like you. I just don't like you. My God just tell me don't like you. I could respect Candice than if Mumba acting like me. But
No,
I got to
I always tell people I want the truth first. I could deal with everything as long as you telling me the truth, right?
yeah.
When you lie to me, I don't care if it's a little lie, a little white lie. Once you lie to me, ain't no coming back from it. We ain't friends no more. We ain't family no more. I don't care where you was because I believe that lies come from fear, right? Whether it's the fear of losing something, losing somebody, but it's not yours to keep.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get to choose whether you're going to keep me in your life by telling me a lie. You don't get a choice. So maybe that's my trauma coming forward and me taking control of my situation, but I've already said lies are not acceptable for me. So I I I remember when I got divorced and I went to a life coach and they asked me what I was looking for in a relationship. And I said, somebody that knows the difference between honesty and transparency and is willing to give me both. And he said, that's it. And I said, yeah, that's it. I just want the truth. And he says, so the person could beat you, steal your money, come into your house and don't pay any bills. They could do anything they want as long as they're honest with you about it. And I was like, okay, I'm not saying that now. And he said, no, that's exactly what you're saying. So if you continue to tell people that the only thing that you want from them is the truth, they'll give you the truth, but they'll give you everything else. So you have to sit back and honestly ask yourself, what is it that you're looking for in any relationship, right? So I tell people that I am happy by myself. When you come into my world, all I want you to do is not disrupt my happiness, right? That's it. That's your only responsibility. Don't disrupt my happiness. Everybody's going to have baggage, everybody's going to have trauma, but your trauma can't take over my life. You have to be in a position where you're healing from it, you're doing the work. I'll stand by you as long as you're doing the work. But if you're not doing the work and you're going to disrupt everything that I am building over here, it's time for you to go.
Mhm.
So
It there.
I have been on 100 dates in 100 days, and I still stand firm. So I could speak from experience now, right? I could say that I have been able to walk away successfully from situations where people wouldn't walk away from, right? I have dated people who have had money. I have dated people who have been broke. I have dated people who was good to their mom. I have dated people who have never met their mother. I have dated, let me see. I think I'm well rounded now. The only thing I haven't done, and this is where I am right now with this segment, is I've never dated anybody younger than me. I can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. And unfortunately, that is all that is approaching me right now. I don't understand what all y'all 20 something year olds, please leave me alone. I don't want it. I don't want it. And it's not because I feel like they have baggage. It's not that I don't feel like they don't have enough experience. I believe that at 20 something, you should be enjoying your life, right? You should be out there
True.
experiencing life and doing all the things that 20 are making all the mistake that 20 something year olds make. I am not in a place in my life where I want to be with anybody that's still fumbling. So maybe
It's true.
tell your husband to come introduce me to some 20 year olds, because I want to date somebody who has already sorted through their trauma, sorted through their bags, and they know, even if they still working through it, even if they're still healing, they at least already know what it is. They know that when they were 14 and dating a 24-year-old, that they were being molested. I need them to know that that's what it is. I don't need them to tell me, nah, she was my girlfriend, and no, she was not. I need everybody, and now that we talked about molestation, I need everybody that listens to this podcast later on. If you are being touched inappropriately, or somebody's making you feel uncomfortable, maybe they haven't even touched you yet, but they're making you feel uncomfortable, tell somebody. Tell an adult. Go to counseling in the Virgin Islands. I'm glad they have this whole little mental health counseling session. I follow them on Facebook now, but I didn't see anything like that when I was growing up. I saw the Women's Coalition, and they were there for women, because I volunteered with them, for women who were being beaten. But I've never seen any like counseling sessions set up for kids who were being molested. And I've actually had a couple invitations from a couple different people for me to come back home and talk to girls in high schools about molestation and being raped and what the next steps are. The only reason I haven't accepted any of those invitations yet is because I need to know that after I leave and I come back home, that there's somebody there to follow up with them. I don't want them to rip a band-aid off or rip a scar off and then I leave them there to bleed out by themselves. They need somebody to follow up after I've left, after I've spoken to them. So, Chanel, I don't know if you want to help me do this, but right now I'm
Yeah.
working through. I want to go to schools and I want to talk to people back home, but I want counselors set up in place to be able to help them after I leave, because it's not fair to them to make them talk about it and then leave them by themselves.
Exactly. We need safe spaces. We definitely need safe spaces because our culture is not, having these kind of conversation is like weird. It's scary. It's so much different emotions. But by us who are relatable and, you know, we need to create safe spaces because there's a lot of women and men and children that suffers in silence and they don't have to.
At
Your
all.
story is not the boogeyman. I had to learn that. My story is not the boogeyman.
Yeah.
I don't need to put it in the closet. I need to watch that story. That's my story. That's my story. That's my story. Yeah, that one that come. That's mine too. I had
Mhm.
to get to that place though. It wasn't overnight because we come from an island where it's like a microscope on you. So it's like stuff that we should talk about, we don't talk about. Is in reverse thinking, so
We
the children are
victim
watching
blame.
us.
We
Huh?
victim blame a lot back home too, right? Because
Yeah.
a little girl will get molested, and the first thing everybody said, "Well, she was wearing them little pants the other day. I
Yeah.
had see her." We need to stop doing it. It's
Yes.
never the victim's fault. It doesn't matter what I'm wearing. If I'm wearing sweats or pajama pants, if somebody wants to rape me, that's who they are. And it's
Exactly.
nothing to do with me.
Like
So
self-control. Everybody should, we need to understand, like, self-control is something that you're responsible for as a human being. I don't care what you're going on. Even if Mumba get a woman and Mumba watching me, she vexed with me because Mumba watching me. Why you ain't vexed with Mumba? You there with me or you there
True.
with Mumba?
It's
This is
true.
the I'm telling you, but it's we have to have these conversations.
like
Hey,
Mama
a
be
lot
the
of
first
us
to
are
tell
mentally
you.
messed up.
Mama be the first to tell you I had to change my number 3 times within the past 2 months because I decided to date somebody for a small amount of time. And I got harassed so much. People were calling my phone over 100 times a day, sending me all kind of nasty text messages, sending me penis pictures, having conversations with me as if I was the person who approached their partner and decided to be with them. So
Sorry.
it's a dangerous place. You have to not only watch the person who you decide to date, but you also have to know their surrounding circle, right? So you have to know that I shouldn't have had to deal with anything from any other woman if I decide to date somebody, right? Because that's our situation. That has nothing to do with me. And the
True.
fact that it had to interrupt my household, I had to change my numbers I had over 10, 12 years. I
Wow.
had to change it because they would not leave me alone. It was one thing to bother me on social media. I could deal with that. I just block you. But they started calling me nonstop from like 12 different numbers a day. It's like they had an app and they just kept changing their number and
Oh,
constantly,
no.
like, for what?
Yeah, that's too much for our age.
You
You
understand
at the
me? Like,
age.
Facts. Facts.
I should
Uh-uh.
never have to deal with anything like that. So you don't only get harassed or blamed by the person that you're in a situation in, but the entire society, this entire community that decides to take over. I have somebody that's being harassed right now by the same person that harassed me, and they're not even dating the same person. So there is a VI Caribbean page that stalks people if you enter a relationship with somebody that they deem to be inappropriate, right? It's a specific page and it has to be being run by multiple people, but they're bullies. Like they're some serious bullies. All I
You
was waiting
just
for was somebody to show up to my door because that was the next step. They were telling me where I lived, they were telling me where I
What?
worked. I just wanted somebody to show up to my door because let me tell y'all, I have a 12 gauge in this house
don't
that's
let you can't let the people that know what you got. You
I
just gotta.
look, all of my stuff is registered. That thank God for the US military teaching me how to use my weapons and properly. So you come here. You ain't leaving. I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6, okay? You could harass me on the phone, you could harass me on the internet if you want to. Just do not invade my personal space because these calls were coming in all 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. These people were
Oh,
not
no.
sleeping.
No, that's crazy.
And I
So
Uh-uh.
had somebody else reach out to me and tell me the same page is harassing them. They
So why
harass
nobody report the page?
people, report the page, they disappear for a little while, and then they just come right back. So and it's a VI page. It's a VIP, and it's unfortunate, right? It's extremely because we attack each other, and for what? What are we attacking each other for?
carbon
But
up.
that's
It's
why.
just
That's why. Oh, sorry, Mumba.
no, no. You good. You good. Go ahead. You good. You good.
But that's why we have to create safe spaces. That's why we have to change the narrative because yes, those kind of people exist, but they don't speak for the whole island. Because I did do vlogs, I did get messages, you did do, you Mumbai, we all know beautiful people live on the island as well. But those little, those set is like a cancer. So it's gonna take us to save us and change perspective, help people mentally because a lot of people are mentally ill, they're mentally tired, the illusion is taking over that they're delusional. So it's just so much. You know what I'm saying? It's so much layers to the dysfunction. But if we're gonna have to create safe spaces and have more conversation like these, so you know, people have awareness.
I encourage people all the time to reach out to me.
It's true.
I have gotten on the phone and stayed up with people all night when they've been in bad situations. Like, I'm okay with people calling me. I'm okay with you talking to me. I'm okay with talking you off a ledge. Like, I got you. If you ever have, before anybody ever decides they want to take their own life, I am down for you picking up the phone and calling me. I will give you my number. What I'm not okay with is people bullying other people when they're in a bad situation, or even if they're in a
Extremely
good
true.
situation. Bullying is not okay. We just had a little girl in the Virgin Islands take her life over cyberbullying. It's not right. And at some point, we need to stop. And you can't hold,
Yeah,
it's so difficult to hold anybody accountable when they're doing it on the internet. It's so hard to find out who they are. And it's unfortunate, man. It's just really, really unfortunate because
yeah. This is where we at right now in our society. Those fingers be acting real tough, and it's sad, but each of us could make a difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's adults that be on Facebook too. They're worse than the kids. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we don't sometimes I hear adults like these children, but are you the same way? I don't be watching them like we you think they get it from?
exactly.
So it's a cancer, man. And we gotta go back to the village mindset.
So it is.
Your
This
child
is
is
the
my
concept.
child, my child is your child. You
Exactly.
know?
I have never been mad at anybody in life for stepping to my child and saying, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing that." Right? I was watching a video with this teacher who got into the fight with the little child in class. Y'all seen that in North Carolina?
Yeah.
I was like, I hope when she went home, her mother cut her ass because there's no
Exactly.
reason why you should be approaching a teacher and then you
And
gonna
she tried to slap
right?
the teacher. I would have do the same thing. I'd have hold her little ass because you see, we come from the island, so we wouldn't be traumatized like other children who in, you know, and they work for us. Them teachers was not playing with us.
At all. And don't get me wrong, I was a bad child. I will be the
I was
first
a
to say,
bad child.
look, any of my teachers listening right now, I know I don't tell her you're sorry too many times, okay? I was a bad child. So I'm not saying that bad children don't exist. I know why I
But we
can't
won't
be a
hate no
teacher.
teacher. We were bad,
Man.
but we had respect.
Well, so
It's true.
I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. I was a disrespectful child. Disrespectful to the teeth.
Really?
Man, you couldn't tell me nothing. And but when I used to go home, Pamela and Glenn used to cut my ass, okay? So and I still used to go back to school and be bad again. So a lot of times we'd have blamed this on parenting, and it don't always be parenting because but I was a hothead, right? I had my own trauma and my own stuff that I was dealing with, and I know I couldn't fight Pamela because she'll tear
Mm-hmm.
my ass up.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody in the street who even look at me wrong will gain it. That's how I knew how to express what was hurting inside of me, right? So now I have messed up hands with teeth marks all in them because I was constantly punching somebody in their face. I was a bad child. I'll be the first to say it. I have went back every teacher that I have seen. Anytime I go home, I'd always apologize to them. There's only one teacher I ain't apologize to, as I wasn't sorry. But maybe the way I expressed myself, I was wrong. What she did, she was wrong. And I think a lot of times I just speak for the children too, because I just say a lot of times adults to treat children like they don't have no sense. And
Yeah.
just because they're a child doesn't mean that they shouldn't have a voice, right? We have to listen to these kids and we have to figure out why they're angry. A lot of kids are angry because something is happening and they don't know how to use their words, right? So yes, that little girl would have got her ass whooped. My son even said he was like, she gonna say, "Give me back my phone on my mama," and then get whooped. You can't put it on your mama and then get your ass whooped. But we have to figure out why she needed her phone, why she felt like she had that kind of like somebody. A lot of these children feel entitled, right? We have to figure out where the entitlement coming from because I know that we quick to blame it on parents, but like I said, I was bad. I think from the fourth grade on, I was cursing teachers out.
What?
I knew what teachers not to mess with, though. I knew what teachers not to talk to recklessly, because I knew that those teachers wasn't playing with me. They weren't trying to be my friend. They weren't trying to, but they also weren't boxing me in, and they weren't being disrespectful to me. Right. So my mother used to have this thing. My mother is born and bred in Brooklyn, New York. So she used to have this thing where, and I used to hear her saying it to other adults. So it didn't apply to me. She used to say, "You disrespect me, I'll disrespect you worse. You hit me, I'm going to bust your head to the white meat." She wasn't talking to me. It wasn't none of my business. But I used those same philosophies and they applied to me in school. So if you disrespected me, I disrespected you worse, whether you were a child or an adult. I didn't have that mold that says, and I had a mother who had my back regardless, right? So if I went to school and I disrespected a teacher and she found out later why I disrespected the teacher got her ass whooped in school. So what I was seeing was my mother defending me, right? I get home and then she beat my ass too. Like, no, I whooped her ass because yes, what she did was wrong, but what you did was wrong. You were supposed to come to me and let me whoop her ass from the beginning. I didn't have that, right? I didn't have that distinction in my mind that says you're a child, stay in a child's place. And I think that's what we need to like reincorporate into children. And that's what I've always done for my children. Like, hey, if an adult does something that's disrespectful to you, come to me. I will handle it. I promise you I will handle it. And those are the safe spaces that I created in my house. I allowed them to tell me what was happening. And they knew that regardless of what it was, I had their back. I used to tell them in the beginning, if you did something wrong, tell me. I'm still going to have your back, right? But I need to know before I get there what role you played in whatever happened between you and an adult. I don't want no surprises. So my kids used to come through the door. My daughter got suspended one time on the school bus because she was on crutches. She was a soccer player. And the teacher told her that she had to sit at the front of the bus. And she said, "No, I made it to the back. I'm fine. I'm comfortable." And the teacher said, "No, I said you're going to sit up front." My daughter said, "Hey, I've been sitting back here all week. Nobody's been saying anything to me." The teacher was like, "Look, I said what I said. Get to the front." My daughter's response was, "See, this is the problem with you white people. When we want to sit in the back of the bus, y'all want us in the front of the bus. When we want to be in the front of the bus, y'all want us in the
Yes.
back of the bus." She incited a riot. All the black kids on the bus jumped up and was like, "Yeah, y'all white people always want to tell us what to do." So she got suspended off the school bus for the rest of the year, right? So of course I'm gonna go in defending my daughter, like, "Hey, she made it to the back of the bus safely. I think there was another way you could have spoken to her that could have gotten her to do exactly what you wanted her to do." But I also got on her ass. Like, what the hell? You Rosa Parks all of a sudden? You don't get to like tell people. But I think we have to like create a safe space for them to be able to tell us the truth, right? And like 6-year-old you, a lot of people would have said, "Are you sure that's what happened? You sure you didn't remember it in a different way? What were you doing?" Why do we question the victim about what they were doing and how they were doing it instead of just saying, "You know what, Chanel? I'm sorry. Come sit here with me." I'm like you said your grandmother did. She held you in, right? That's what we're supposed to do. We can correct them, but we also need them to know that protection is here. Somebody is here to save them and protect them. But then we need them to also be accountable for their actions, right?
Exactly. And we also need counseling. Like, parents have to understand, like, yeah, you could confront the person, whatever, but that child also need counseling,
My
therapy,
parents
all
don't
that
believe in
stuff.
counseling. If they listening right now, they know they don't believe in counseling. They don't believe that counseling is a real thing. I have been speaking to my parents over and over again about the importance. I even want us to go to family therapy, right? They believe that that's the white man who created a new medicine to collect some money. I think that's their generation.
Yeah.
Their generation is forever going to believe that counseling doesn't work. Um, they believe that my grandmother's generation believed that what happens in this house stays in this house.
Mhm.
So You don't talk about it outside of this house. And I get it. They're all of their generations have gone through their own trauma, and
Mm-hmm.
they've learned to cope with it in their own way. So we can't go backwards, right? I can't teach my mother how important counseling is. I can't teach my grandmother how important counseling is, but I could teach my daughter how important counseling is and how important it is to incorporate it into your life, even before you went through some trauma, right? Some physical trauma. The trauma of being in a house with a mother who doesn't show emotion. I'm sure that affected my children in some kind of way, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you lose a family member, going to grief counseling, like it's important to talk about all the stages of grief. We lose so many people in the Virgin Islands that it
Mm-hmm.
becomes normal.
Yes.
We send out bird posters. Oh God, it just happened again. Somebody say sorry for your loss. We don't even know who just died. We just know it happened
Exactly.
again. We have made it normal. The normalization of somebody getting killed or somebody dying is crazy. I don't even go to funerals anymore because it came to a point where the only time I was going home was for funerals. I don't even go no more. I don't even want to see a funeral anymore. I'll send flowers, but I'm not coming. So no, none of you don't die, okay? Because I ain't coming. I just letting you know right now. We've made it too normal, but nobody goes back and have grief counseling and talk to these kids
Yeah.
about how it feels to lose the person that they just lost. How much is going to change their life from this point on,
Mm-hmm.
never being able to see this person again. So we normalize it and then kids become numb. So then losing somebody, it doesn't affect them anymore. And that's not healthy at
Mm-mm.
all.
And there's no support groups. We
Nope.
so many things. And it's gonna take the people to realize that we have a problem. But they have to first realize they have a problem. People that just think, well, ain't my child, and they look for justification of why it happened to Candice and not them till they come at their door and it's like, damn, we really have a problem, you know.
I seen the VI consortium for the little girl who passed away this week. And I know her mom. We all know her mom, I'm pretty sure, because she's our age. But the comments underneath this girl's passing was so heartless. People were saying stuff like, why wasn't anybody watching her? Why was like, you don't say those kind of things after somebody just lost a child. It is a child, regardless of how you feel or why people can't have their inside voice anymore. Like, what happened to keeping those negative feelings inside?
The problem with our people, right, is if they ain't like the mother, they ain't gonna like the child. Because you cannot tell me somebody passed away, so tragically, and instead of having a heart, you're coming with judgment. You ain't even, I mean, you can't make this make sense, but and these are adults. These are not children. So it just tells you where we at in our society and our little island. My schoolmate, I went elementary with her. Her son was the one that got killed over by the club climax.
Mm.
This is a mother that dedicated her whole life for her children. She's not a Chanel that'll be outside. Her son is not a Jaja that, went to jail. She had a good son and she was a good mother. If we want to put people in categories, because you know how our people is, they could tell you who's good mother and who's bad child. But here it is. This is a good mother. This is a good boy. He went to school. He graduated. He just wanted to go dance and he was killed. So it's like we have to really understand that we have a problem and it's going to take us to save us. We is part of the problem. And when you see stuff like that, where people could go and a webs and on social media and feel so free with a picture to tell you how they feel, that speaks on the people there, that speaks. They exist. They exist there. They don't speak for everybody, but they still live on the island. They're still part of us. That's part of our community. Cause when I cry, Candice, you should cry
That's
as a
it.
black woman. When I cry, when Mumba cry, I shall cry because I see me and Mumba, I see me and Candice. So we got a problem, you know.
We
That's what
do.
God trying to show us. We have a problem.
We do. And it's unfortunate. I just
Yo,
disconnect from home. I don't go to no home events, and that's bad, right? Because I love my home. My island is beautiful. The people there are beautiful. But look, the more I disconnect, I'm sorry to say, the happier I'd be. Because I don't hear nothing about me. I heard more stuff about myself, and I'd be like, "What? Let me pop some popcorn. What Candace doing this week?" Because I'd be doing all kind of stuff. I'd have to listen to the streets to find out what I'd be doing. Mind you, I don't leave my house. I don't leave my house, but I don't have to listen to the streets to find out what we're doing. So the more the I disconnect myself from people back home, the less I hear about myself, and that's so unfortunate, right? Because Carnival, I wanted to go to Adamo last night, but the thought of seeing a bunch of people from back home is a turn off to me now. I want to be able to enjoy my culture. I want to teach people about my culture. I want to take people home and show them how beautiful the island is. But I want, and I can't control the narrative, right? I can't let them to see all the positive without them seeing the negative. And because of that, and because I feel like those people outnumber the positive people, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to take them, I don't want to take anybody around the negativity and then they have to be engulfed in that. I rather people go home that I know and I send them home. I tell them places that they could stay and they experience St. Croix without me. That's terrible. That shouldn't be it.
you know the problem with our culture is that is the mentality is that you know they they think they always right. Every person that has a opinion think their opinion is the right opinion. The problem with our culture is like nobody listens. Everybody want to talk, but nobody listens. That's the problem. That's just the problem with everything. Is that and it goes like when you guys were speaking on the kids and stuff like that. The most dangerous kid is a kid that has no fear. If a kid has no fear, has no conscience, and don't know how to think in situations and stuff like that, then they're gonna do whatever they want to do and stuff like that. And sometimes they get that temperature from the surroundings and usually the parents and stuff like that. You know, and sometimes the way how a lot of the parents are from where we from come from different islands and stuff like that, you know, and they discipline the kids a certain way, you know, the belt and beating and stuff like that. But when you really think about it, or cursing in front of the kids and talking bad about an adult in front of the kids in the car and stuff like that, kids pick up on stuff like that and they mimic the adults and everything. You know, if you make a mistake like that, you should be like, hey, you know, Ralphie, you know, the way how I talking about this lady, you should not talk about this lady. I'm really upset. I apologize, but you should not. You got to like teach the kids the right way to grow up and stuff like that. And I think that's the problem. And then next thing you know, the kids is doing the same thing the adults do. And then the way how they handle the kids, they curse them, they beat them, they yell at them, they scream at them, they're doing the same thing that they do to other people that the kids witness, so the kids do the same thing to other kids in school and adults and stuff like that. And it goes back. If a kid has no fear, the kid will do whatever they want to do. At the end of the day, if the kid has no fear, the kid has no respect. You know, so once a kid, you know, talk to an adult a certain way and stuff like that, they don't have no respect for the adult, or they don't understand like, hey, you know, that's an adult, even though the adult wrong. You know, try to respect the adult. And everybody not perfect or anything like that. People are gonna make mistakes, but it's just a broken society, and like you guys say, it just takes the right mindset of people to start spreading the love and awareness and having conversations and where everybody could talk and everybody could listen and give their perspective, and you know you could agree to disagree and stuff like that. You know, like you guys mentioned with the lady that lost her kid, and under the comments people saying this and stuff like that, they say that, right? But think about it. Do they ever take time to really look themselves in the mirror and realize that, you know what, that's my opinion, but should I really say that in that moment? You know, how this woman really feeling. They said the worst pain is when a mother lost their child, when a parent loses a child is the worst pain on earth. You know, so like no matter your opinion, you gotta just swallow your pride, and you just gotta respect the person's opinion. If you know the lady, you know what, drive by the house, send her a message. Hey, you need to talk. You want to express how you feel, etc. Stuff like that. That's showing love, and that's how we could get on the right track. But everybody has an opinion for everything, and that's the problem.
Hmm.
Like everybody, that's what it is. It's like it's just sad to me. Like it really, really is. It's really sad because we just moving backwards as a society and not moving forward. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. I guarantee you, like three of us here talking, and you see we having beautiful dialogue, a beautiful conversation. We all expressing the way how we feel, and we might disagree with each other, but we ain't really say it publicly. We will just have a conversation so we could see things from a different perspective, and hopefully you guys understand what I said, or I understand what you guys said, and stuff like that. And that's the way how we supposed to do things. It's all about spreading love. It's all about spreading love. And just growing. But we just have like a crab in a barrel mentality. Instead of we seeing the love, we see the image, and we finding a reason why we don't like this person and all kind of stuff. It's just sad and crazy to me. Where I'm at in my life, like I don't even acknowledge negativity. I always find the positive in the negative. And if I see somebody being negative, I
He
try to
lying either.
yeah,
Like,
you know,
I be trying to tell him about some negative stories, and he could find a way to. Well, maybe if we look at it this way, not even I'm positive, and I'm not as positive as Mumba. It's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, because it's like we are not the same. We not all the same. And I'll give you guys a perfect example. I had my opinion on the Marcus Houston situations and my perspective, and I listened to your perspective, Candice, and I listened to your perspective, Chanel. And my perspective was different from you guys' perspective. But me being open minded and really listening to you guys' perspective really changed my perspective on how I saw it. Because certain words you guys use and your guys' interpretation are probably because you guys are a woman and you guys are mothers. Now I see it from a different perspective, but also your trauma that you guys experience. So it made me realize, you know what? Okay, I see it their way, and you know what? Their way actually. And that's the way how we're supposed to be. It's not about being right, it's about understanding, and that's the main thing, and but it just take conversation like these for people to like-minded like us to agree and start spreading the love and the knowledge and the wisdom, and hopefully other people pick up on it, and next thing you know it changes and stuff like that.
You
But
have to look at a lot of our culture too, right? A lot of our culture was to listen to our elders and don't talk back.
Hmm.
So
yeah,
a lot of it was we weren't allowed to have an opinion on anything. We weren't allowed to have a feeling about anything. You were supposed to listen and stay in a child's place.
yeah,
That was it. Those would do as I say and not as I do. Those are all the things I heard in my house. I don't know what y'all heard in your house, but that's a lot of what I heard in my house,
I
right?
agree
So
with you. It's usually like that, yeah,
and
for the
and we
most
got
part, yeah.
we got threatened at least in my house. We got threatened a whole lot. Like I brought you into this world so I
Oh
could take
yeah.
you out.
Yeah, yeah.
All
That's
of
the
those
elder
Yeah.
things
mentality.
are like passive aggressive ways to threaten your child. Like you gonna kill me? Like what?
But traumatized.
Man, so
Yeah,
you get traumatized in so many different ways, and until
very
you
true.
say it to people, like I told you, my mother was a New Yorker. Growing up in the Virgin Islands, like my mother would be in the background cussing, and people would be like, "Why your mother cussing at you like that?" I'd be like, "Oh, she ain't cussing, she just talking." Your mother don't talk like that? No. Like why your mother cussing so much? My mother tell people to suck her dick more than anything in the world. I didn't know that she didn't have a dick. Like you just telling people to suck your dick like that. But I heard those things in my house so often that like it didn't seem like it wasn't normal, right? It didn't seem like it wasn't the norm. But then I would go to other people's house and I would listen to how their parents would talk. I had an older woman tell me just last week. Now this is my elder. This is somebody I looked up to. She was like a second mother to me. And I don't think it took until now, until I'm this age, at this era of my healing, to recognize how traumatizing some of the things she said was, right? She asked me what elementary school I went to. And I said Pearl B. Lawson. And she said, "That's why you don't act like you better than people." What? You're an elder. You're somebody that I'm supposed to look at and respect. How do I act like I'm better than people because I went to a public school? It don't make sense to me. And she went on to try to explain to me how people from Pearlie Lawson think that they're better than everybody else in all of the other elementary schools because we had all the best teachers. I said, so let me tell you something. And this was the first time I think I spoke up for myself ever talking back to her, right? So I talked back to one of my elders. I said, I'm always going to think that Pearlie Lawson was the best because Pearlie Lawson is where I went to from kindergarten to sixth grade. I can't say that Lumaco was the best because I never went to Lumaco. I can't never say that Ricardo Richards was the best because I never went to Ricardo Richards. So I would hope that everybody that went to whatever school they went to represents it as being the best school because that's where you went. That's where your experience came from. So you're supposed to say that your school is the best. I don't think that I'm better than anybody else because I went to this school. I feel like I'm better than me. I'm better than the person that I was yesterday, but I'll be better than myself today, tomorrow. I don't feel like I don't compare myself to any other person because I am my own competition.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, all right, wherever you said, Miss Ting. That was her response. And I sat back after I got off the phone with her and I was like, this is somebody that I really, really respected for my entire life. And for her, and she's from a down island, right? And she said that when she first moved to St. Croix, how everybody made her feel some type of way. They used to call her a gasso. And when I sat back and I thought about, I said, so you could categorize me as fifth kindergarten to sixth grade Candace, but you still holding on to the fact that somebody judged you 40 years ago for being a gasso. How are you not doing the same thing? It's not the same. I said, all right, Miss Blank Blank, I gonna get off the phone because I think we reached ahead to this conversation. But I wanted to plant that seed for her to sit down and really think about it. And it may not ever grow, right? I may have planted a seed and she may never water it and it may never grow in her mind. But for me, all the respect that I had for her washed away in one conversation. Because I was like, how could you do that? Like, how could you tell a child that she feels like she's better because of the education that was chosen for her? I didn't choose what school I went to in elementary school. I may have chosen what college I went to, but I didn't choose my elementary school, my middle school, or my high school. Those things were chosen for me. And Bad Candace went to all four high schools, okay? Because I got expelled from every single one. I got expelled from Central. I got expelled from Complex. They sent me St. Thomas. I got expelled from Eudora Ken.
Damn.
And then they sent me to New York. They was like, this child is bad. So let me send her to every school. So I've had the opportunity to go to a different high school all 4 years of my career because I couldn't get in control of my hands and putting them on people and my emotions. I let other people control my reaction. Now, 41-year-old Candace will tell you who anger you conquers you. I was letting them win because I was putting my hands on people and putting them in the hospital. And thank God I ended up just getting expelled and not in prison because I'd have been telling a different story today. But we have to feed into these children. Mr. Moorhead told me that I wasn't going to graduate high school. I was going to be dead or in jail before my 18th birthday if I continued to live the way I was living. You can't tell a child that in their formative years, especially a girl, right? I'm going to end up in jail or dead before I'm 18 years old. And those 41 years now, I still think about the fact that he said that. But he said it and it made me wake up. I don't know if that was his intention. I don't know if it was reverse psychology. Instead of just sitting down and talking to me and saying, hey, you need to straighten up, he chose to say something like that. But I've gotten arrested plenty of times and managed to stay out of prison, not take anybody's life, not do anything that would get me locked under the prison for the rest of my life, but gave me an opportunity to. I'll tell y'all, the thing that made me straighten out the most in my entire life, I got put on probation for 18 months. 18 months was, it felt like a prison sentence because I couldn't raise my voice at nobody. The things that would make me normally snap on somebody, I had to sit back and think about it for a second because I had to ask myself, if I put my hands on somebody, is it worth doing a 10-year sentence? Because my 10-year sentence was suspended as long as I didn't get in trouble for 18 months. So 18 months was a long time. Like you had to rethink and reevaluate everything that you did. I had to I had a short temper, a very, very short temper, but I had to ask myself, like, is it worth it? Every single thing that I did, I had to ask myself, is it worth it? And I still apply that logic to today, right? I ask myself before I do anything, like, let's fast forward to the end of this story and ask myself, what do I hope to attain by doing this thing? So, with doing the podcast, I hope to attain, like, other people listening, other people learning from our experiences. Are people probably going to still do the same thing? Absolutely. Right? Are they going to have the same outcome that all of us has had? We've had, Mumba, you had a great story, right? You were able to leave the Virgin Islands and leave a legacy forever behind, right? You're always going to be known as a Virgin Islander that left and became a MLB superstar, right? That's going to be that's going to be the legacy that you leave behind, regardless of what you do from here on out. Your name will be known for that. Chanel is going to be known for what Chanel is known for. Candace is going to be known for what Candace is known for. A lot of things that I find as a problem in the Virgin Islands is that we can't ever change the straw, that we can't re-pull the straw that we pulled, right? So I was known for being a bad kid in high school. And no matter how much I've grown or changed, I will always be known as that child in high school that was getting in trouble. That's it. That's the legacy that you create for yourself. I wish that we could create a circle where we could show people that you can grow from who you were, you can become something different, and what you've done, that it doesn't mean that's who you are. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, go ahead. Sheila, you was gonna say something. You can go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you, Mumba. Well, I think I live on St. Croix longer than both of y'all. How long you living up in the States, Mumba?
Oh, I've been here. To be honest with you, I would say I've been living here longer, about 2 years longer now than St. Croix. Yeah, so up here longer.
Because I've only been here 8 years, but most of my life I've been home. So my family, everybody live in the States, but I live home. So I could only speak on, because when I was going to school, just like you, Candice, I was bad. I was bad. I was fighting. I was cussing. I had a very bad temper. But what I can say is, yes, there's people that still will view you as the same, but there's people that also love the evolution. Because I've been there longer, so I can only speak on. When I go home, Candice is like I'm a celebrity. People love some Chanel, especially being that I do live and I just speak on topics that would be considered like, oh my God. But there's that tribe that I've created that they want to grow. They want to show up and show out. So when I go home, people are always like, Chanel, when we gonna do this? When you gonna do this? So they're hungry for it. They really are.
Oh,
And the
that's good to
people,
hear.
yeah, and the people like the elder that you were speaking about, there's still those people that their minds are limited. And no matter what you say, do, they're gonna only see right there. But for the most part, from my experience, Candice, they're ready.
That's good.
Our people, they're ready for the shift. They just don't have people that live on the island that really real about this thing. People that be saying, yeah, they keep it every day, really real like we can this. When we spoke about this man and about being molested and being raped, You will not hear people like really, it's gonna take us to be like, listen, are you ready or what? And they're gonna be behind a we until they jump in the front. But they ready, Candice. They have people that ready.
Well, I hope they
You
start
know,
showing themselves forward because not only I want more men who have had experiences, traumatic experiences to come out, right? I want more men. I've spoken to a lot of women and I appreciate them for sharing their stories, but I want more men to feel comfortable coming out and sharing with us like their traumatizing experiences because boys aren't going to learn until the men step forward. They always gonna think that there's something wrong with it. It's so many men back home that I know of that's still in the closet because they're afraid to say, I like men too. It's not I don't know whether they're afraid of being judged. I don't know what it is, but like they still at our age, you shouldn't still be in 2023. Be whoever you're going to be. I know I've spoke about this on a podcast before. I don't care about men who are gay. I don't like men who are in the closet. I don't like men who have wives and children and are creating an illusion again of
It's true. It's true.
having this normalcy of I like women and then every time their wife go to bed they go into their boyfriend house. Don't do that. Have your boyfriend, enjoy your boyfriend out in the open. Nope. I can't judge you for that. But I don't like people creating illusions and I guess that comes back to the being lied to. So I'm ready for people to come out in the open, share their experiences with us. I know we've been on here a whole lot longer than we normally are.
I know. I did to Walmart. I'm like, wait, I gotta go home and cook.
But this has been a really good conversation, and I appreciate you both for sharing your time with me. I know y'all superstars, so I appreciate all the time that y'all
And
gave
yeah,
me.
I want to say something real quick.
Okay.
You know, when you touched on the individual with the whole elementary school and stuff like that, you know, it really don't make any sense because whatever elementary school you go to because you're using the same books and stuff like that. You're in elementary school, you're a kid. You can't really judge a person from elementary school. So for an adult to do that, it just lets you know where their mind is at. And sometimes it doesn't even say waste your time. Even say trying to have a conversation with somebody with that type of mentality. You know. And the other thing is you mentioned like they play professional baseball and stuff like that. You could go on any of my Facebook page and you will not see me posting any type of accomplishments or where I played and stuff like that. And the reason why I do that is because it's the past and that's who Mumba was then is not who Mumba was now. And I try not to bring, certain type of energy based on my accomplishments and my hard work and stuff like that. So but I mean I just feel like people just gotta live in the moment and be willing to evolve and be willing to grow and learn from the past. Don't focus on the past. Learn from it to make you a better person and try not to think too far ahead. But you gotta live in the moment. You gotta seize the day and live in the moment and grow. You know, and it's not about positivity. You just stay positive. You know what I'm saying? Just stay positive. I think that people have a positive mentality and be willing to look themselves in the mirror and look themselves and tell themselves the truth. Like with me, I could look myself in the mirror and I could live with all the mistakes that I made and I could look myself in the mirror and look myself in the eyes and stare down in my soul and I could accept who I am as a person. And I feel like once you can accept who you are as a person, you will always win in life. If you're willing to win and you're willing to change, but you gotta be willing to change. But y'all start with you facing your truth. Once you face your truth and you accept your wrongs and your right, and you forgive people that you did wrong and stuff like that, and you willing to change, then you gonna win as a person, and you're gonna bring positive energy to society, So
That was the perfect way to close that out. That was the
yes,
perfect way to close that out. I
yeah,
appreciate y'all so much. Mr. Nelson used to say this when we were growing up, right? Positive is how you live. And I don't think we paid attention to that, or at least me. Let me speak for myself. I don't think I paid attention to that as much as I pay attention to it now. Positivity should be spread amongst everybody. Being able to look yourself in the mirror, I think, is the most important thing because as long as you could accept you, that's all that really matters. and then you could grow from there. You can't teach one, each one, right? That's what it is. Say each one,
Each one teach one.
each one, teach one. So until you learn you and you learn how to deal with your struggles and your traumas, there's no way for you to teach anybody else or help them to overcome what they're going through. So that was perfect, Mumba. See, I told
I
you
got
he's
a question for both of you.
okay.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I need so you guys need to come on my podcast so you guys will tell your story.
Okay.
If you guys willing to do it.
Definitely.
So I will appreciate that. I think it's very important that you guys come, as a celebration where you guys tell your story, whatever, you guys shared a lot today and it's whatever you guys want to share. But Candice know I do a podcast. I'm not sure Shannon, if you know I do a podcast, but the podcast
No,
is pretty much
He
people
has
from
a way bigger following than I do.
yeah.
That's why.
no, but this is today was my first time like doing this podcasting, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I really need to get my own podcast. So, Mumba,
Yeah.
I want to get into this wall. So
Yeah,
I'm
mine is
just
different though. Mine is more the person tells their life story as a celebration for them to tell their life story the way how they want to tell it. Where 10, 15, 20 years down the line, family members will always go back and look at your life story and it's your story, from your own
I
your
love
voice.
that.
So definitely would love to get to where you are. I may already tell Candice before, but Chanel, Candice, I'm asking you guys live right now. If you
You
guys,
know I
I'm
got
ready.
you.
I'm
so,
You know
ready.
I got you.
all right, so
I'm
um,
definitely ready whenever. Just send me the information and I'm there.
yeah, Candice know, and I'll send you the link so you know what it's about, and maybe you guys. I know some of the people have already been. Maybe you guys can kind of skip through somebody's story to see how it's about, so you guys have an idea. Well, mostly you should have to see have an idea how it is,
Yeah.
So
And I'll share it on my Facebook too.
yeah, that's no problem, So
All right, well, you guys, thank you so much. Remember, to all our daters out here, people didn't ask a lot of questions today. I'm surprised. They were just sitting there listening attentively.
you guys,
They
hey,
were
you
in
guys,
class, just taking
Look,
deep.
they were taking notes, and I'm okay with it. Take notes, but
You guys went deep. You guys went deep.
we went deep and we shut
That's it
them down.
humbles you. It humbles you to listen. So that's big. You guys did.
But they said
You
two
guys did.
ears and one mouth for a reason. They were listening today.
You guys did amazing. You guys did amazing. You guys even humbling me myself.
Oh
So
my God. Well,
definitely.
y'all know what I say. Safety first. If you're going to go on a date, you know what to do. Make sure somebody knows where you are. Somebody, anybody, whether it's a friend, share your location if that's what you do. 2023 iPhones have made it a whole lot easier. Share your location with somebody. Let somebody know where you are. Do not get into a car with somebody if you do not feel absolutely safe. Um, if you reach out to me and you need counseling sessions, I will help you find a therapist. I will help you if you've had any childhood traumas that you want to deal with. I can help you. I don't have all the resources up hand, but I do not mind doing the research to help you find someone. Thank you, Mama and Chanel. You guys are amazing. Thank you for
Thank you.
peeling back some of these layers with me today. But 100 dates in 100 days, y'all have to know um, who you're looking for, date intentionally, or don't date intentionally. Just know what you're doing and be safe. All right? Eesh.